If a person is interested in making a deck that wins via decking out the opponent, what options are available? Due to the new errata, gone are the days of throwing together a trollish Exchange of Spirit deck. Outside of Exchange of Spirit, in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, there really are only two deck types that have any real ability to induce deck out with sufficient consistency: insects and zombies. Unfortunately for those interested in using insects, outside of Needleworm, the deck design itself is rather too slow due to a lack of significant discard potential. When the next two best cards in your discard arsenal are Wormworm and Shieldworm, you know the odds are stacked against you. This is not to say that zombies do not have their own share of weak or inconsistent deck destruction in Necroface, Goblin Zombie, Bloodsucker, and Malice Ascendant. Fortunately for deck destruction enthusiasts, zombies do have one excellent deck destruction card that ties in nicely to their major strength as an archetype: Soul Absorbing Bone Tower. Therefore, with a goal in mind to design a deck out, deck destruction deck, I'm going to build a zombie deck out deck. Some people might refer to the following deck build as a troll deck, but I disagree because, in my opinion, troll decks are reliant on one of two strategies to achieve victory. First, loops that have to do with drawing to build up resources, either for Exodia or to unleash a wave of monsters or effect damage. Two, locks that prevent the opponent from having any real response, Ultimate Herald of Perfection, for example. However, while the deck I'm going to build today runs a loop that involves forcing the opponent to discard from the deck to the graveyard with the intent to win via deck out, it is not reliant on this loop to win. Thus, in my opinion, it is not a troll deck, i.e., decking your opponent out is not the only legitimate avenue of victory for this deck. Starting out, let's read the effect of Soul Absorbing Bone Tower. While there is another zombie-type monster on your side of the field, your opponent cannot select this card as an attack target. Each time a zombie-type monster is special summoned successfully, send two cards from the top of your opponent's deck to the graveyard. This card represents smart design, for anyone who has any experience with zombies know special summoning monsters is what they do best. Outside of 3 Bone Towers, the next most important monster in this deck is Pyramid Turtle, due to its ability to special summon itself as well as other zombie monsters at minimal life point cost. For to complete the loop, you will typically be ramming Pyramid Turtle into an opponent's monster, resulting in Pyramid Turtle's destruction by battle. In addition, outside of ramming Pyramid Turtle, like all other battle searchers, Turtle provides field control and a level of effective controllable stall. Zombie Master and Mezuki are also both important due to their special summoning effects as well as their above average attack power. Mezuki will either typically start the loop by special summoning a Bone Tower or a Pyramid Turtle, or it will end the loop during the main phase 2 by special summoning a Zombie Master or a Plaguespreader. Zombie Master is a staple for most zombie decks and helps drain those extra cards near the end of the loop by adding at least one additional special summon due to its ability to special summon the discarded monster if it comes to that. 3 copies of each. Due to the graveyard special summoning effects of both Zombie Master and Mezuki, dumping cards into the graveyard, including Bone Tower, is also a priority for this deck. Despite the fact that it is not a zombie, with all of the monsters in the deck at level 4 or lower, Mathematician is the best option to accomplish this graveyard dumping, with the secondary benefit of producing further advantage when it is destroyed as a result of battle. I run 3 copies of Spirit Reaper for field control, especially in combination with Bone Tower, which creates an anti-attack lock for non-piercing monsters. Also, the additional hand discard can prove useful from time to time when Spirit Reaper gets the chance to swing directly. Finally, I run 2 copies of the aforementioned Plaguespreader Zombie, both because the synchro capacity and its innate special summoning ability. Plaguespreader is actually fairly dangerous for the opponent in this build because Zombie Master can special summon it with its effect, leading to a synchro for a level 6 zombie. Then Plaguespreader can special summon itself, resulting in an additional 4 cards discarded from the deck for each Bone Tower versus summoning some other zombie. Then, if you want, you can go into something like Beelze to further your field control. For the spells, One of the chief goals of this deck is to try to get as many bone towers on the field as possible. Combining this goal with the special summoning ability of zombies, 3 copies of Inferno Reckless Summons is an important addition. A card that helps trigger Inferno Reckless Summon and a staple in zombie decks. I run 3 copies of Book of Life. Book of Life also helps in a more conventional gameplay by removing annoyances from your opponent's graveyard. Due to the searching nature of Pyramid Turtle, Plaguespreader's special summoning ability, and Mathematician's draw effect, I like to run 2 copies of Creature Swap. I feel it works really well in this deck. For example, ramming one Pyramid Turtle into another that was just Creature Swapped can help return efficiency after you get an unfortunate draw which results in 2 Pyramid Turtles being in your hand. Finally, closing out the spells, I run the general staples, the 1 Raigeki, 1 Book of Moon, 1 Soul Shard, 2 Dark Hole, and I run 1 copy of the quasi-staple Foolish Burial to increase the probability of dumping a Bone Tower or a Plague Spreader from the deck to the graveyard. With that ending the spells, it would be an appropriate time to discuss the lack of a zombie world in this deck. For both my tastes and my experience, the inclusion of Zombie World reduces the consistency of this deck. While the positives of Zombie World are appealing, in that with at least 1 copy of Bone Tower on the field, each time your opponent special summons, they would have to send cards from the deck to the graveyard, as well as opening access to something like Xyz Dragon, which can be a big discard engine. Without Bone Tower, the deck can bog down, because outside of its relationship with Bone Tower, Zombie World doesn't help the deck really win with a significant level of efficiency versus some of the other cards that can be run like Creature Swap. Basically, I view Zombie World as kind of a home run or strikeout card in this type of deck, and I don't need to hit a home run. I just need to hit a few singles to win. Note that I also do not run Call of the Mummy, because again, it is a little too inconsistent for my taste. In a lot of respects, Inferno Reckless Summons does what Call of the Mummy is designed to do for this deck, only better. The trap lineup should be rather easy to guess. The 3 most important trap staples in my opinion, 1 Torrential, 1 Bottomless, and 1 Solemn Warning, along with 3 copies of Call of the Haunted to maximize the utility of both Bone Tower and Inferno Reckless Summons. Moving on to the extra deck, I run 1 Leo. When you can make a level 10 easily, Leo is always a good choice. I run 1 Trishula. Bounce is always useful and rather easy to make in this deck. I run 1 Beelze, staple in this deck. 1 Void Ogre Dragon. Negation is always useful to provide some form of control, and there's going to be times when you have an empty hand. 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend for field clearance. 1 Goyo Guardian, 2 Revived King Hades, one of the key monsters for the loot providing that additional zombie special summons, 1 Armades, the 4 rank 4 staples, 1 Exciton, 1 number 101, 1 Castel, 1 Xyz Dragon, I run 1 Gagaga Cowboy for, it's Cowboy, you gotta get that extra burn damage in there in those late games. And I run 1 Wind-Up Zenmaines because sometimes you're in a situation where you don't want to sit there and rely on Spirit Reaper and Bone Tower. You just don't have the cards to hit a quality special summon. You put Zenmaines on the field and he sets you up for a little more protection. For those of you who haven't thought about it yet, at its most basic level, the general loop structure of this deck is to get Pyramid Turtle with some number of Bone Towers on the field, preferably 3 through Inferno Reckless Summon, or field control due to Bone Towers. You can't attack me if I have another zombie on the field effect. After creating this somewhat easy field, the idea is to Suicide Turtle into an opponent's attack position monster, preferably the one with the lowest attack point, if there are multiple monsters. Special summon a 2nd turtle, do it again. Special summon the 3rd turtle, do it again. Special summon a Zombie Master. Then in main phase 2, use Zombie Master's effect to special summon another monster from the graveyard. So in the most minimalistic manner, the loop sends 8 cards from your opponent's deck to the graveyard per bone tower on the field. However, most of the time, you're going to have other zombies in the graveyard, allowing you to do additional special summons to the loop, like summoning through Mezuki's effect or Plaguespreader's effect, increasing this send to the graveyard total from the top of your opponent's deck to about 12 to 16 cards per bone tower in a single turn. Overall, one might argue that sending your opponent's cards from the deck to the graveyard actually helps their plays, if you can't kind of OTK them, in a sense, with the loop. But unless your opponent is running a fully committed Lightsworn or Infernoid deck, that concern is really not as detrimental as it first seems, because you will be ripping them of a lot of resources. And most decks, while they like to use the graveyard as kind of a second hand, they're not equipped to go fully, the graveyard is definitely my second hand. I can pull almost anything out of it anytime I want. And they're not equipped like that. Only Lightsworn Infernoids are really that type of deck. In the end, though, one should not expect this deck to dominate, Regional X, but it is a fun option with multiple ways to win that has a significant victory percentage against a large number of other decks out there. Well, that's my zombie discard deck. Thank you for your attention and your time. I'm out.